Welcome to this episode of Man Reads Book, or in this case it's going to be Man Reads Old Books. So we're going to have a look through the old Warcry books now that Warcry 2.0 has come out. And, see whether it is worthwhile keeping all of these on our shelf or whether maybe we should just bin them. So, short version is, if you bin them all, you probably wouldn't notice. Nonetheless, there are some nice gems in here that probably make it worthwhile holding on to them. So let's start with the core book. So the first few pages are all background, which I don't know about you, but I never actually got too deep into. I don't think I've actually read most of this. I was much more interested in the rules. Still, I guess it's kind of interesting. I guess if I wanted more in-depth background, I'd probably pick up the Age of Sigmar role-playing game, Soulbound, which by all regards has tons of background. So these are all the rules. Gone. All of these rules are gone. We have all of this replaced by the PDF. We have some open play, so these are just different styles of play. I think this is the multiplayer setup, Triumph and Treachery. I think that's for, again, for 3 to 4 different players. So we'll see this a lot throughout these books as we go on. All different ways of playing that are kind of little tweaks. And they're probably what you're going to get the most out of. Okay, this is the campaign setting. This is the narrative play. This is what happens at the end. All of this has changed. So narrative is completely different in the new system. So Destiny levels, I believe, are replaced with Renown. They no longer give extra actions. Or sorry, what was it before? There was a reroll. But now they actually give you a reaction, which is probably a bit better. A lot of this has actually changed. We'll see as we go through. All of these points were upgraded. The way artifacts were done has kind of changed throughout. So this was old before even the new PDF came out. A quick note on campaigns. So I do think Games Workshop have made a slight mistake when they've kind of looked at the Warcry 2.0 campaigns. In it, as we'll see later, campaigns are actually a series of extra games, like a way of chaining some games together. The Gnarlwood part is just baked into the background straight. It always exists. You can't get rid of it. So if you want to spend your glory to get extra points for your warband, you actually have to go through that exploring the Gnarlwood, getting those extra, getting those explore rolls, hoping you'll get the right locations and have enough glory to be able to relocate. That's very thematic. You could definitely redo it, maybe if you want to do it in 8 points or you want to do it in a different setting. But this dominating territory is probably a little bit simpler. It's probably a little bit easier. So basically you're just spending your 10 glory to up it. So what do we got here? So 10 glory to dominate a territory, and then multiple territories increase the number of points you have. So for each territory, you can increase by 50. So if you wanted to do a campaign and kind of detach from Gnarlwood, you could use that. You could go back to that style. Okay. Now, we're back into more match play. Every season match play gets replaced. So honestly, I'd kind of stick with whoever the current match plays. Okay, so this is the first of the campaign quests. This is the old style of doing campaigns. So everyone picked up their campaign quest and slowly worked through it. So I'll just skip to the very back. So this is your tracker. So you start there, you play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 games, and then if you'd won them all consecutively, you'd finished. I say consecutively because convergences were a bit of a problem. You had to keep replaying them until you won them. So thank God that's gone. The new system has, as you finished them, so finish the first convergence, finish second convergence, finish the last convergence, you got your artifact power, your command trait, now a heroic trait, and you got whatever your campaign outcome was. So in this case, I skip forward to 128. And we see Conquered Forge. Yeah, Conquered Forge. So you got an artifact of power. I don't know why they split those out. I guess some people maybe didn't want to read them. It's a bit of a surprise. The story, I guess, I think a lot of people kind of looked at what the end was to see what the actual artifact they would get was. Anyway, these are completely replaced. So now you have quests that you pick up. So if you want to get a command trait, you go on a quest. If you want to get an artifact of power, you go on a quest. And they don't necessarily involve winning. They don't necessarily involve conversion style pre-mapped out battle plans. So there's a little bit more variety, which is kind of cool. So what do we have from this? I mean, the maps are quite cool, actually. I quite like the maps for background. We have 3 preset battles. That's cool, especially if you're using the old terrain. So you don't necessarily have to stick with the full story and going through all of them, but you could, have someone play just these 3 convergences as a little bit of a kind of a mini campaign thematic story. It's kind of a way to not randomly flip things out and just have a bit of background with it. I probably would skip out on these artifacts and these command traits. They're constantly getting redone, and I suspect the ones in the current book are a little bit better balanced. Now, I'm not exactly upset to see these go because there are a lot of them. Like, it's a 2-page spread for each faction multiple times. It really stole up a lot of content in the books, and just for that alone, it's actually great to see them go. So it's kind of nice that you have these. I mean, if you had like a random generator that would just show you a set of 3 of these, that would kind of be a cool way to have 3 battle plans already done. Is it really worth it? No, maybe not. I mean, there might be some cool ones that you could kind of pull out. It's definitely not enough to kind of justify picking up a book for this and nothing else. And then we've got some background tables. So again, we'll see these a lot. The names, I have actually used the names on occasion when I'm not quite sure what to do. It's not really that many. It's like 10 and 10. And like if you've got Kurgo Heart Eater and you reuse Kurgo, it feels a bit weird. And you reuse Heart Eater, it seems a bit weird. And then the origin and leader backgrounds, they're a nice bit of fluff, but I don't know. I figure most people didn't bother using them. And we have them for all of them. And then battle plan generator, but to be honest, if you've got the scenery, you probably have the cards already, so it doesn't make any difference. You have victory cards and deployment cards. Now, this is kind of interesting because the deployment setup has changed. So it used to be that you needed 50% was in your shields, and then you split the other 2. But now it's basically an even split based on your actual fighters. So the way these appear is actually a significant difference. I think you probably should stick with whatever split style you have for your deployments. So if you want to use the new ones, you should probably go with the even split. If you want to try use the old ones, you should probably go with the unbalanced split, favoring the shield. Just because in these, the shield is going to be on the table a lot more. And that's basically it. Yeah, so this book has served us well, but I think the majority of it is gone, is dead. Alright, speaking of dead, this is the Hunters and Mercenaries book. This one has been replaced a long time ago. So, again, a lot of cool background stuff. Lots of awesome pictures of monsters, actually. It's Conrad. Very pretty. This was a book that added in allies for the first time, so it was a pretty big deal. And it also added in monsters, which was very, very cool. So I have this board and this set, so that's kind of a nice setup for me. Whether it's worth me randomly rolling it or not, I don't know. Probably not. Probably better off randomly rolling it and not having to carry around the book. The challenge battles have been replaced. These ones were all about the big monsters you can get. This one was kind of interesting because rather than a monster, you actually this was a box of Varangard, the elites that you could play as, not as a faction, kind of weirdly since you have all the details for a faction, but as a kind of a monster group. And yeah, and then some rules for stuff, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, this one got replaced a long time ago, so I'm not too worried about that one. This is Catacombs. This, I did not pick up Red Harvest, but the principles for this are probably the same. So this was a book, a little tiny book, that let them use the core rulebook in this new box. So this new box was the underground one, Catacombs, with dungeon style boards, which I love. I actually think it's great. And it's a nice bit of variety, and I mean, like the lava, and actually these gates are fantastic. I use them for Cursed City. They're just beautiful to have. Lots of cool pictures. 2 awesome new warbands, which never got around to painting, but still have. Alright, let's get forward. So the real point of interest in this is the dungeon battles rules. So this wasn't, or hasn't, to the best of my knowledge, been replaced. So if you, so it's how to set up the battlefield, some extra small little details like setting up the features, you know, what happens when you start walking over the bridges and they start weakening, how the dungeon walls work, bridges, collapsing pits, how pits work, and then, oh yeah, they've got levers as well, collapsed doorways. There's ways to make walls in the scenery, and this scenery set is beautiful. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to just be used on those boards, can be used in pretty much anything. Then we've got the universal abilities. So, you know, a double to lurk in the dark, a double to breach door, a triple to push into a pit, yes. And then they had some specific ones. So this is the Night Haunts and the Corvus Cabal. It was a little bit weird that only they had it. I kind of feel like now other factions maybe should have had, since we've got so many. But, you know, it's Vulture Walls and wall running. That's still pretty cool. I'm not going to begrudge them it. Geez, kind of surprised that the K-Knight Shadowstalkers didn't have some of those abilities too. And then again, it's more of the setup stuff. I don't know why they bothered with those. Actually, are any of them specific to the underground? I don't think so. Okay, there's one for bridges start to get weakening. But no, I mean, I think the ones that you have are probably fine. A couple of cool pre-done maps. Probably got the cards for those already though, so again, same as before. Yeah, and look, all of these quests, these quest campaigns just take up so much space. Anyway, that was Catacombs. I'm assuming Red Harvest was the same, so they had their own cool lava or molten Varanite harvesting set, where you could pull levers and release the sluices, which is kind of fun. Next up, we have the Grand Alliance books. I think these are cool. These are great. I, got the full set just so I had all the options. I got a second one of the order ones, so my brother would have easy access to it, so he could have all the rules he needed when he wanted to play. So we've got details for Cities of Sigmar, Deepkin, Fireslayers, Arcane, the whole set. Obviously, most of this is gone. The new PDFs replace all of this stuff. I mean, it is essentially the exact same as Compendium, but the Compendium just has more. And this is probably why it has more. Again, we don't need to have these campaign quests. So the new system where you've got like a small quest that you pick, and you keep picking up different quests for different aspects, and you can keep on going with that. It's much, much better. I'm definitely a fan of it. And then we've got some challenge battles. So these are kind of cool. These are specific style things happening. So in this No Dwarden Left Behind, the Order Warband goes in to rescue an Ether Chemist, a Dwarden known as Drong Grimbolson. And then a few turns in, so I think on the reserve phase of the third round, a Cadron frigate turns up. So these little set pieces are kind of fun because they do actually bring in other things that normally you wouldn't get a chance to play with. In this case, the big vehicle scenery. And this one sounds kind of cool too. It's halting the ritual plan, where it's up against the Chaos faction. The Chaos faction are looking to complete a ritual, summoning a demon, and then the Order guys are going in to stop that. These ones in particular, I think if we went through all of the books that I'm going to be looking at today, I think being able to pull out these particular set pieces is kind of the key bit that I think would be the most important. So in this book, you're probably looking at just those few pages as your point of interest. Oh, and they probably have, you've got some names and some origins. So if you needed to work out what your Daughters of Cain were called, you've got some options there. Cainite Shadowstalkers and Daughters of Cain have a different set of names. That's interesting. Anyway, alright, that is 4 books all in one. And now we have the Tome of Champions. So 3 Tome of Champions came out. 2019, 21, or 20 and 21. Okay, and they came out at the end of each year. So 2019 would have been released at the end of 2019, be valid for 2020. A lot of this, these are actually quite cool books. The first one, maybe not so much. I was less impressed with the first one. So it does have a nice terrain generator if you don't want to use a map. Do your own terrain. Monstrous Malaise. So this is kind of a cool idea. You basically just got big monsters and battle them out. You'd probably still do that with the current rules. Again, more of these quests, campaign quests. Too many, in fact. So I think this was catching up on a bunch of old factions. And then they brought in some of the faded ones that were faction independent. But look, I mean, there's so many just wasted on it. It's great to see it's gone. Actually, no, I lie. This is actually my favorite out of all of the Champions books. Because I love these. This is scenery from some of the Age of Sigmar stuff. So it's a Shattered Dominion objectives box. You get all of these pieces, and they're all beautiful. And you get to paint them up into fancy little diorama pieces. Objectives. And then each of these are all little quests, or little pre-done ones. Like in Lord Splinterbone's Feast, you've got your this lord who is sitting at a banquet. Now he also has a bunch of gold lying around, and this particular one, the build-up is quite cool. Both players are trying to nudge their fighters a little bit closer to the treasure before Lord Splinterbone gets annoyed and realizes that they are not here for a feast. And then he asks which flesh tastes sweetest after quenching his one thirst with the blood of a mortal priest. And then you get to answer spleen, liver, or guts. And then the fight kicks off. Most of these have a specific model to go along with it. So the Ogroid Thaumaturge, Karsax the Carnal Fiend. Not sure which he is. One of the Bright Wizards, one of the Chaos Wizards. So, you'd have to get that. You have to get a Troggoth for this one, I think, to kind of round it out. But they're very cool. They're very pretty. They're very iconic. They're kind of cool. All right, this is Trial of Champions. Trial of Champions is actually the proper way of doing campaigns. Made it a little bit more lethal. Added a few more. You have to spend glory points to recruit fighters. This is all stuff. Oh, and you got more artifacts. This is all stuff that's been incorporated into the modern 2.0. And we got more backgrounds, so names and traits and bits and pieces. Then the match play, we don't really care about. Updates to the campaign rules have been incorporated, so that's already in there already. And then the new fighters, which, we're not going to be able to use because we're going to use those out of the core book instead. All right, so that's 2019. Next one is 2020, and the art on these is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Okay, so rules update. I mean, they were just making sure we knew everyone was part of the Grand Alliances. Those campaign rules just reprinted from before. Pit fights, cool. I suspect the pit fights already are in the modern, or the 2.0 book. I'm not entirely sure. And here it is talking about doing it when the dungeons reign. This one is cool. This is Sarath Core, which is a corpse city. So this is a bunch of war bands raiding a old city. And this is one of those campaigns of the kind of classic style, rather than everyone having their own independent campaigns and kind of working through it as they go along, which is a great system. This one is a little bit more traditional. So you don't get to just play willy-nilly. You have to have your locked-in group, and then they play through it. So it does open up some more narrative options, but you need to have people who you can rely on to actually play. So the different phases of it are to battle around the outer city, battles in the city itself, and then the battles in the heart of the city. One of the things you can do with this is you explore territory, but you can also steal territory from others. And then I think that the territories give some little bonuses. So that's kind of fun. And then you've got the specific fights going through it. And this section is interesting because they don't always talk about this. They talk about it a lot in Necromunda to have a campaign master for the campaigns. And I guess because the general format of Warcry is just to have independent campaigns. You don't necessarily need to have a campaign master. But if you want to get like a real good narrative thing going, having someone in charge of that really, really helps. Okay, and then this is 2020. I like these ones too. So these are one-off narrative battles. So there's just 6 of them in total. Let's see. So Blood War, Desperate Scavengers, Mark for Death, Ambush from Shadows, Strummed Encampment, and Arcane Ritual. They have saying what terrain here? Draw to. Okay, you're drawing terrain, so it's not necessarily going to be this, but you've got your layouts. There appear to be some restrictions or some ways of doing it, but most of them just say draw a deployment card, or draw a terrain card. The deployment card's already here. Specific victory. And they all have this battle plan ability. So this is a unique action. Are they all doubles? There's a triple in the first one. Double, 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 double. Cool. Let's look at this one. So this is Stormed Encampment. Double, burn to the ground. Only a fighter in the attacker's warband can use this ability. Pick a terrain feature within 1 inch of the fighter. Roll a number of dice equal to the value ability. If the combined score is greater than 6 or more, the terrain feature is set on fire. Terrain features that are set on fire become deadly terrain until the end of the battle. So basically you get to rush in, start burning stuff, and cause havoc. It's just cool. You know, it's just a little bit of fun. Whether it's going to be balanced or not, I'm not going to speculate. But just battle plans that have unique abilities, especially the ones that are doubles, so you're going to be able to use them a bit, are kind of cool. Alright, back to Trial Champions. Every time we have Trial Champions, they just minor tweaks, minor updates, and faded quests. Oh god. So these are more the campaign quests. I mean, if this is any use to you, maybe. And like the stories are kind of fun, but yeah, I'm not upset to see them gone, especially the amount of space they take. Challenge battles, these are a little bit cooler, and wild fighters. So with this one, all of these campaigns are, I believe, these are ones for 2 players. 2 dominant stake, warbands. Okay, so I think these are just ones that have the players. No, it's the players, yeah. So these are actually co-op battles against wild fighters. So AI run stuff. So you've got a Mega Gargant here, you've got a Lord of the Change. Some fun stuff. Are you looking at these ones? Fall of Snagglewort, you're probably looking at goblins, aren't we? Yeah, Gloomspite Gits. 4 wild fighters, each consisting of 500 points worth of Fellwater Troggots, Rocket Troggots, or fighters of the Gloomspite Gits faction. Obviously, this kind of depends on what you've got in your collection, and you don't necessarily need to play as 2-player. You could definitely play it 1-player and just go with the behavior tables to run the AI of the enemy, which is kind of fun. And I mean, even if you want to do 2-player, it's cool. Okay, those are a bunch of artifacts. So the idea was that you'd have chaos, destruction. Again, I'd probably stick with the artifacts that they have now. Season play, just keeping things up to date. Escalation tournaments, so just a way of doing some quick games and having some artifacts. You could certainly take the idea of the escalation tournament and update the artifacts of power and command traits to the current stuff, but I suspect the rules that we've got in the new book will probably be a little bit easier than that, and this is a repeat of how to set up the terrain. And now on to the last book is the Tome of Champions. 2021. It is 2022, but obviously these get released at the end of the year. So this is the one that was valid for this year, and then we'll get our 2022 one at the end of this year in December. This is some point updates, all relevant now, but was great when it came out. Coalition of Death Siege Battles. So what's this? This is Siege of Karngrad. So an attack on a fortress. That's pretty cool. Okay, so you've got an outer wall, defenders. Yeah, that's probably one of the better ones. It's probably one of the good ones to kind of keep an eye on. These kind of set pieces. Branching quests are just a variation on the campaign quests. Not upset seeing on. Look, so much space. So much space. Okay, and this is the good bit out of this particular book. The narrative campaigns. So, it's the Purge of Anvilgard, Forlorn Hope, Depths of Silontum, Rat Hunters, Fool's Trove in Ulfenkarn, and War in the Mark Hills. These were all actually based on box sets. So the Anvilgard box set, if I recall right, was a bunch of Order guys you could pick up. So presumably it was then Brecht in there. I don't think there was a particular enemy for this one, so you could play them against anything. And, you know, there's a range of different options, so you don't necessarily have to do it from the City of Sigmar Anvilgard faction. You could have done it with some of the Stormcast Turtles. Oh, allies with the Canine Shadowstalker faction remark. Interesting. And those are the actual campaigns. Forlorn Hope. So this is the Luminant Realm Lords. Again, they got a box, so, you know, may as well give them a campaign to go along with it. And I think this was against the Aussie Ark. So I suspect there was a box that was a 2-player box that you could pick up with that. And there's Archon the Black at the end. So stuff like this where you get to bring out one of your big models. Do you get to play Belcor in this one? Good lord. No, it doesn't look like it. Are very, very cool. So this, the Depths of Silontum, is quite cool because it is Bellicor. You get to play some demons in this, but you could quite happily replace those demons for the Chaos Legionnaires, I'd imagine, because they thematically are linked to Bellicor. And I mean, it's just a little bit of team, a little bit of story. This is all about setting up cool gaming experiences so people can actually have some fun. Speaking of which, I've not played this one because I do not have many Skaven myself, or any Skaven myself, but I really want to. This is something that's kind of exciting. So there is the Vermintide computer game where you just get swarmed by rats, and this is basically it. It is, actually they say it this time, for 1 or 2 players, so you can play this solo. And this section here is all about how the Skaven operate and the behavior table for it. And then there are 3 quests, 1 quest. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So there are a bunch of battle plans where they tell you what the victory is, they tell you what the twist is, and then there's one preset, pre-developed one. And basically in each of them, you're just dealing with horde after horde of Skaven and have to survive and make it through to the very end to try to clear them out. Very, very cool idea. Was great with the pandemic when a lot of people were social distancing and, you know, had the opportunity to actually play some games at home. This one, a Fool's Trove in Ulfenkarn. Again, very, very cool because it actually takes the models that you would have got in your Cursed City box and lets you use that in the campaign. And then this last one is the Mork Hills, which the big Age of Sigmar box that came out was those new Swamp Orcs versus Cruel Boys versus the Thunder Strike Stormcast. And then this was just a campaign that you could do between the two of those to actually play it out. Now it's quite interesting actually because you set up into 3 different warbands. So you could actually end up facing big imbalances depending on who got sent where. So that was a kind of a cool way of doing it. And then big size battle with an ending. Okay, and then we have the match play section with the pitch battles. So that's pretty typical. There's a little tournament here. The idea is that you've got your plan from 9 to 6. It's kind of cool actually. Looks like a different battle. Okay, so they got the three battles set out. That's kind of nice. An agenda specific for it. And okay, and this is the new Luminite Realm Lords, Soul Blight Grave Lords, which was a big release, along with the Thunderstrike Stormcast and the Cruel Boys. And this was the big excitement for this was we were finally able to play our Underworld warbands. And unfortunately, they are now not legal anymore. We cannot play them. So, I mean, obviously you can take your Skaven and change them to, you know, equivalent fighters, but you're not able to play Scritch and the crew. My understanding is that all of these were designed using the old calculation. So all of the stats are a bit off. There are some of the new Harrowdeep did get a release in White Dwarf. And our understanding is that they were done using the new calculations. So those are currently legal and are good to go. That's it. That is it. So that's our Tomes of Champions. Order books. Catacombs. And rule books. So honestly, there are some cool pieces in here, especially within the Tome of Champions. The little set pieces where you get to fight specific battles with, you know, cool twists and abilities, or where you've got little campaign stories that you can play. Those are really, really cool. But honestly, most of this, you know, just taking up shelf space. I probably could happily bin all of these and not notice them. Sad but true. Nonetheless, the campaigns and the one-off battles, if you put the time and effort into them, are fantastic. It's obviously a lot easier just to sit down and set up some random terrain and, you know, play it out that way. But you have the option, you have some kind of hints on how to make a kind of truly unique gaming experience, and for that, you know, that's probably worth it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment.